It said, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
Yes.
I used to think that was a working, aggressive conversation or statement. And when my eyes came open to see what it was saying was, and it's not a physical movement that you do. The walk of the spirit is walking in the consciousness that you are spirit, walking in awareness of spirit, not walking around with your head up in the air and the rain is coming in your nose, or somebody pouring water on your head and make you think it's raining. Walk of the spirit is not some spooky looking outfit that you wear and you walk around with your family Bible under your arm. Walk of the spirit has nothing to do with going to church or not. It has nothing to do with you going to buy a new suit for a speaking engagement. It has not anything to do with you going to the barber shop or a beauty shop, get your hair fixed for the next service. The walk of the spirit is walking or living with full awareness that you are an eternal being, and outside of that exists not anything. But if you walk in the flesh, you'll be walking contrary to your spirit identity. So when we read off the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, meekness, kindness, and the other ones or whatever, you will find out that that is your true identity that has always been you from your infinite eternal self. So we used to go on trying to figure out how to get into more spirit today. You're not filled with the spirit today. You don't have the spirit today. The spirit is weak in you today. And we're basing that on some experience of emotion. In our day, it was based on how well you shout, how long you preach, how many demons you cast out, and how many people.
How sweet and nice you were.
How sweet you talk. And if you go into the fullness, awareness of the definition of the walk of the spirit, it means walking or seeing or looking with clarity when you see things, and the spirit will show you who you are by revelation and insight. And there are many ways. Now, please understand, some people think that the only way you can wake up is by somebody that is awake laying hands on you or praying for you.
That's in church circles.
That's
yes.
in the religious church
circles. Yes.
But in the God identity, I've been noticing that there have been some people coming online saying that brick and mortar churches, all of them are false and they're not real. That's a pretty broad statement to make. Because, well, it's not to them, it's not, because they say that God never told anybody to build a building or to go into a building to sit under anybody, and yet you got the 12 apostles and all that to sit under Jesus for 3.5 years. So, we talk sometimes like we're talking out the side of our neck. And
well, I've actually begun to realize that a lot of us are talking as if we are experts about what God thinks and what God wants. And I don't think any of us have a corner on that. And when we speak of God separate and apart from us as a being, there is no way for the finite mind to have all it should know about that. It is so, God itself is so vast. And undefinable and indescribable that there is no way any of us can be an expert. And to tell someone else this is what God says and this is what God wants is ridiculous.
We are saying waking up to your true identity and noticing it as is necessary is the key to the walk of the spirit. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Today I'm going to walk 10 steps. I'm going to walk 5 steps the next day, and that's going to be my walk. walking in the spirit is not running down some trail, trying to make yourself feel like your pastor or feel like your leader.
Mm.
You have respect for them, but you don't even really have to deal with that because you are free to see the truth. Now there are people that live in what I'm talking about for years and never ever find out what it means to wake up to the true identity. They think that receiving the Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues and all that is is a sign that you are the walk of the Spirit, but it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't. It is something that takes place, or you find out that you are what you've been looking for. It's a whole lot of things we can say to you on air about these things, but the most important thing is that you are here. If you were not here, you wouldn't be here. And if you were
If you were
not,
not here, you wouldn't be here.
you wouldn't be here. We are the Father, Son, Holy Spirit in one place. I was bringing up a subject to him or to myself about speaking to God, and just I don't know why it seems to be difficult to say this for some people. Some people have trouble when you say, "I want to talk to God and you." I want to talk
Well,
to
it's
God
not
and you.
something people hear often.
No,
That's
but
not
it's
something that's commonly said.
but when you actually sit down and look at this thing, God is closer than the breath that you breathe. Matter of fact, He is that breath that is you breathing.
Yeah.
So you are in a good position now to see the truth of your identity and all it is. Now, I know some people have read the course, they read the Bible from rooter to tutor, and they still got questions. Now, I did that once before, and the Lord said to me, the Spirit said to me inside, said, why would you ask anybody else for anything when the answer that you need is Him?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I don't understand certain things that were said. He said, what do you think I'm here for? Who do you think is giving? If they're going to give it to you like that, that's fine. But you need to understand another thing is that what source are they saying these things in? Because a lot of times people will say things like you don't need to do this and that, and they be speaking out of uh, their own conditioned self. Yeah, yeah. And what we're saying is that there is enough of discernment in each one of us. We were born with this ability in the physical world, but we were made out of it in the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
And it being made out of that, it causes us to the walk in the spirit is called walking in thatness.
Okay.
I amness, I chooseness, and your knowingness. So we are we are waking up to the real self, speaking from our pure self will cause others to get healed.
Yeah.
It will cause others to be free.
Yes.
To the degree that you're willing to go into that area will determine. And let me tell you something else. The walk of the Spirit does not mean you have found out what your calling is. You don't have to be a bishop, deacon, a pastor, evangelist, or whatever you want to call it to walk in the Spirit. You walk in the Spirit because that's where your focus is. It took me a long time to catch on to that because I wanted to be like everybody else. And everybody else, I didn't think that, well, if they jumped in the creek, I'd jump in there with them. But I found out that the creek was still wet and I ain't been too long come out of the bathtub. So I ain't going to jump in the creek just because I'm trying to find out the truth. My They said my daddy said this, and family said his brother dared him to put his finger down on the chopping block, and he didn't believe that his brother was going to fix him up. He put that finger down, and his brother chopped it off. And to this day, my daddy's body in the grave has got missing fingers. He wasn't walking in the spirit, then he's walking in silliness, ignorance, and foolishness. Why would you ask God when you go in the grocery store, how many cans of Van Camp pork and beans you can supposed to buy today. And if you don't have about $10, and he tells you to buy 20, do you know after being with God and around God and in God and God in you, you should know the difference because you have gotten familiar with the voice of your shepherd self or your it's called your pure self or your infinite identity. Learning the ways to communicate with your inner self is called the walk of the spirit.
Okay.
Okay, you got something?
I wanted to read a little bit if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's from this book. I like to tell you guys what book I'm reading from. This is an old book by Walter Lanyon. It's called That You Might Have Life. And you can see we've been reading it. So we've had it forever and it's got tape all over it and everything. Anyway, I wanted to read this, just a little bit of this, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. It says this: He is coming whose place it is to rule. He is overturning and overturning until finally not one stone remains upon another. For the new thing has to be raised up. I am not talking about the world. I am talking about you and your temple body. I am talking about the dawn of revelation, which is coming to you. The realization of your permanent identity.
That's good.
Yes. And the realization of your permanent identity. And then he says, like the dawn which slowly reaches out its slender white fingers through the dark night of human thought and draws all these misunderstandings and beliefs into the light of the full noonday. So this light within you is gradually permeating your whole body and mind. You are being changed as the leaven changes the whole measure of meal until it is all leaven. At a moment you think not, it happens. It has been going on so silently, even as a thief in the night, and yet it has been going on, undermining the superstructure of human thinking and its beliefs, and bringing in place the realization of the temple not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, eternal in the mind of God, who created it in his image and likeness. Beloved, do you begin to see just what is going on within you? When you begin actually to appropriate the Jesus Christ consciousness and are unafraid to take off at that new level, you will begin to experience this ever increasing dawn, this spreading dawn, which is revealing a newness and wonder of life not recorded by man. Eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man the things that are prepared for them that love the Lord. You cannot see these things, for the light of the eye has been so obscured by the human thinking that you've been looking through the glass of your personality, which is filled with the atom belief of race, color, creed, and even family inheritance. And you cannot hear beyond the screeching of the human voice, which is offering life for sale. Yet life is a gift. As the termite unseen eats away the joists and rafters of an apparently solid house, which one day collapses, so the recognition of the consciousness of Jesus Christ undermines the most difficult human situation. Sometimes it may seem that nothing is being done and that the old building stands there as adamant as ever. Day after day, the contemplation of the presence and the recognition of your permanent identity is made with no visible outward sign. But one day, that one day when the spreading dawn begins in the twinkling of an eye, the thing which seemed so utterly beyond help or hope caves in, collapses and goes down like a house of cards in a hurricane, and the place thereof is no more.
Mhm.
That's the dawn of recognition of your permanent identity.
Can I stand beside each one of you, and you have a friend standing next to you, and I would say to you today, while your friend is standing there, I think we ought to give him $100.
Mm-hmm.
And you turn around and look around and say, what friend are you talking about? There's nobody standing there. But I would say to you, I can see him, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you see him? And I do. That friend that's standing beside you, as far as you're concerned, is invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm giving you something here as to how you can stop the incarnation of the dark world called demons and Luciferians. They will not attack if there is no human physical or your human condition self is what develops him. If you do not exist, he does not exist. And I'm not talking about denial either. I'm talking about going deep enough into the spirit identity that Satan cannot see you
And
as
Satan cannot see you, because then Satan also disappears.
disappeared. That means he does not, there is no one like that existing. The
There,
only thing that makes him
yes,
exist
yes,
is our personhood.
yes, and the realization that there is nothing else here but God,
That's right.
and there has never been anything else here but God.
And we're not saying go around and tell everybody that dark being does not exist, because there's some people who want him to exist just to give them conversation or to say or to prove something about sin exists and darkness exists and God and Satan is in a battle. If
Yeah.
God does not exist, we don't exist. If God don't exist, Satan does not exist. So our original state is zero. And when you understand
Yeah,
that, you'll
yeah,
see
yeah.
that there's no power over you at all because
Because
you don't exist.
there's no you for power to
There's no
be
you for
over.
power to be over.
Yes,
That's
yes.
right.
And this is the quantum leap. You have to take the quantum leap. And I
Mhm.
hope you can with
Yeah, I
us,
do
because
too.
a lot of us are still stuck in the identity of being a body and a mind. And in that body, mind, or temple mind mentality, we tend to think of God as an other. And when you take the quantum leap, there is no other. And I remember years ago, Judith Baldwin, who came to see us when we had our 500 people in our large building, and she made this statement. She said, there is nothing out there.
Mm.
She says, there's nothing out there.
Mhm.
And her whole message to us was she started every sentence pretty much with, what if?
Mhm.
What if? What
Mhm.
if? And so it's coming to the place of taking the leap, that there is a permanent you. There was something that you said on Thursday when we were with Pastor Norman in impromptu. Uh, and I don't know if you said it or I got it intuitively.
Mhm.
It was, take your last breath.
Okay,
Take
I remember you
take your
saying that.
last breath.
Mhm.
And when that came to me, I realized that the identity of who I believed myself to be,
Mhm.
the identification with my gender, being a female, I'm gonna read some things off to you. My identification with my physicality, which is my gender, my race, my color, my size, and my shape, and my functionality, whether I'm disabled or not disabled. That's identification with my physicality. Then there's the identification with my psychological self, which is my talent, the
Mhm.
skills, the
Mhm.
intelligence, temperament, emotions. All of these things are identifications of what I think I am or what I believed I am to be. And then there's the identification with that spiritual self, which is knowledge and studies, giftings, devotions, servitude, how I've served. And then there's the identification with that social self, which is friends, associates, family, my accolades, my connections, my financial status, my educational status, my community involvement, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. All of those are the beliefs of what I think I am, which is not who I am, because the permanent identity is none of that.
That's right.
Those are things added to the permanent identity. All those are added to who you believe yourself to be.
Then you find out that faith is your true identity. It is not some object that comes and goes to give you equipment or equip you to do mighty feats
Yes.
of explosive,
Yes.
miraculous events 1 minute. Then the next minute when you're through, you got to go get prayed up and get some more juice and then come back and blast again. And there is what we call living in the manifested bondage of the ego, that everything that comes and goes is not of God in realness. So if you want to go on and continue this walk, there must be a time and a place where zero will really mean something to you, and you won't use zero as an excuse for an occasion of you to hurt and destroy people or yourself.
Exactly.
One of the things I like about the marriage vow is that it says two will become one, even in the flesh. It talks about that in there. And we're not metaphorically saying this. We're saying that the key to anything in God is oneness with Christ. I used to be scared to say that. I used to think about what the scripture says about that. What am I going to do with this? And when somebody come up in front of me and I try to explain this to them, there's nothing to explain. He's telling you, even at the cross, if it is true that Jesus went to the cross, then that means that everybody on the earth has got the mark of the cross symbols, or the marks of the cross in the hand, in their feet, and in their side, and the thorns around their head, because you were in him being taken to the cross. You were in him when he was raised from the dead. The part that you were in him is your eternal spirit. I'm going to keep saying that. If my tongue fall out and you had to call 911 to come and pick it up, take it to the hospital and sew it back in, I'm telling you, this is the truth. You are a spirit, eternal being, and if you didn't exist in the mind of being human, and in the mind of being a condition, Satan, demons, and attacks would not have its hold on you. Me dealing with this shoulder situation, I know what it is. It's not an attack from the devil. It is in a world that these things take place, and I do not identify with it as something to destroy me or to hold me back. I look at it for what it is.
Yeah. Now, speaking of what I read to you from the book that just a little minute ago, just a while ago, there to me there is what I'm noticing, what I'm witnessing with my permanent identity as the seer, as the witness, that there is a great shedding going on. There is a shedding, and that's what I just read mentions. It's like a termite eating at a house, and you don't see it happening, but it's actually eating at the structural beams of that house, and that house is weakening, but you don't see its collapse until that final moment. That's but right. there is presence eating at every identity or structure that has been built up of your belief of who you are, the erroneous belief of who you think you are. It is happening. And I've said this the last few times we've spoken. I know that what's happening to me at this moment, the me that I'm talking about, is that conditioned egoic self saying, that it is being dissolved. There is a shedding going on. And in my case, I'm realizing that it's stuck at the point of the psychological self. It's targeting the psychological self, and it's targeting the spiritual self in this being, in this form, as this being. The thought processes is targeting every thought process that I'm having. It's targeting every my sense of being spiritual. It's targeting all of that. The belief I have about who I think I am in those two aspects, it's targeting those things. And it's stripping, where I'm shedding identities a little at a time. And I have to go back to the termite. It's just like that termite eating at that house. You don't realize that it is doing that inside of you. You are, I almost want to say, you are being had. And you don't realize you're being had, and you're longing to be enlightened, you're longing to be awake, you're longing to have that final seeing where you're fixed in it, that there are no more flip-flopping back and forth. That prayer has been heard, and that prayer is being answered as we speak. But the finite mind and the conscious mind is not aware of the workings of it.
Not in agreement.
Because it's in the hidden parts of you. It's in the hidden places. It's in the dark places, the recesses, the places where you are not familiar with. And then when the upheaval comes in your personal life, it is the evidence that something is crumbling. When there's upheaval in your emotional status, and in your thoughts, and in your just how you react and respond, when there's upheaval in that's clues and evidence that something is eating away at the identity that you believe yourself to be, and it's working. So that's a good thing.
The very words that come from any pure section of any book, the pure word that comes from the Bible, and in the course, whatever, that pure word is coming through a wonder being.
A wonder being.
An enlightened, you can be enlightened, an enlightened self coming through a sleeping giant or a sleeping body, and not even be aware of it. God, we want the Lord to manifest. Lord, if it is you, let me know. I don't want to do the wrong thing. That's the reason why you may be possibly doing it, because you haven't found out who you really are working in everyday life. God and the walk of the Spirit does not remove people out of your life just because you want to live a certain way, or you like to do a certain thing because you've been taught that you should not have these problems in this life if you are walking in the Spirit. That's not the walk of the Spirit.
Yes. And so what we are guilty of is wanting we want our lives to be constantly peaceful, constantly joyous, constantly happy. And as we pursue those things, we lose who we are permanently. Because your permanent self does not have to try to feel happy. It does not try to feel peaceful. It does not try to have joy. It is peace. It is joy. It is happiness. So it's not trying to feel those things.
I can talk to people on the street anywhere, and so can you, if you learn how to trust the hidden part of you, of the heart. Now, when you finally realize that you can trust your inner self, the Spirit of God, you won't have to carry a Bible in your pocket to
Mm,
read or to
mm,
quote something
mm,
that, unless it is coming from a certain book that you studied. Look, I don't know I know how I know a lot of people that are good readers. I used to love to be in school and hear the teacher read us the stories about Jack and the Beanstalk. And in
mm,
Jack and the Beanstalk, there was a book called Jack Tales, where he tells about all of his adventures.
yeah.
I remember some of those adventures, but those adventures that Jack had, if you go back and look at him in that little book, Jack never stopped being Jack
Right.
because of a storm, because of a situation. I want you guys to be so established in your permanency that you don't have to quote anything. Do you know the word of God is
Yeah.
so wordless in the sense that it can speak to you or speak from you and never open its mouth.
Oh, yeah.
When you get over,
Well,
let me tell you something, in the
yeah.
spirit world, when they depart from here, or we do, we take with us, I want you, our voice box. Our voice box in our throat is changed over to call what is, here it is. Our voice box is switched over to what is called presence.
Mm,
Your presence
mm,
speaks.
mhm.
When I saw Jesus, and every time I see him, he never communicates with me with moving his lips.
Right.
It's not necessary in that world. Study, you guys, to show yourself approved of God, a workman that needs not to be ashamed. Study the fullness of this baptism of waking up. Say it another way. Study the fullness of your identity. I wonder what language did Adam talk in the garden. I wonder how did
Mhm.
he talk to Eve in the garden.
There was no
There
language.
was no language then. Now
Mhm.
all of a sudden we get smart and this is what God said and God told me to do this. Uh, I hear names all the time inside of me, and I just some of them I say, well, been thinking about this cat. He may show up, may not, but I don't say God just shown me this. I know who is talking to me and showing me without the asking. But if you would relax, just relax enough, you will find out that the truth of God in you as you does not have words with it, but the biggest move of God in you is communication. Understand God's communication devices. Understand. Somebody said, well, God speaks to you through his word. Okay, what language is it? Oh, the King James Version. How'd you find that out? Oh, it's always been like that all the way back before it got into the Pope and up there. Look, I heard God speak to me, and I couldn't even read the Bible, but because I know it was, I didn't know. That's what it is. I didn't know,
What happens
but He
though?
showed me when He talked to me.
What happens though when you're not getting any more communications from God?
Mm.
What happens when there are no more spiritual experiences? What happens when there's no activity coming to a you from God as an other? I remember years ago, I was sitting in my prayer time, and I had a habit, and I still do it occasionally, of praying out loud in conversation to God, and then speaking back as God to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, a lot of times the wisdom that's needed comes. This particular time, I remember I was sitting there, and I was enjoying this fellowship between me and Jesus Christ, me and the Holy Spirit. I was enjoying that twosome.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this said, are you ready for me to disappear?
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's a good one.
I pondered for a minute, and then I began to cry because I enjoyed the twosome.
Mm-hmm.
I still enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
twosome,
Mm-hmm.
but I realized that it was necessary for that was apart from me to disappear, for there to be only one.
And that's close.
And that twosome that attachment to twosome had to go. And I didn't want it to leave. I wanted that fellowship with God as an other. And occasionally I still am able to have that. But most of my days, there is the disappearance and only the knowing now of where and who it is. And I've had to learn to live with that. My mind has learned to live with that. My feelings has had to learn to live with that. And when there were upheavals in my person, in this person, I had to remember who was here as this person. And that it's okay in the adventure of life. It's okay because it's all the same one that's here.
And you know what's so good about this?
But the twosome, I had to let go of the attachment.
And once you catch this, you'll never have to wonder where God is. You'll never have to look for him. You'll never have to wait on him.
And there are times I grieve for and I long for the twosome because there were such beautiful experiences with that. But I realized the experiences come and go and they cannot be sustained. And the only thing that is permanent is the oneness. That is the only thing that is permanent.
I hear inside a prayer, a words, a statement. Cause everybody that's listening to the sound of our voice or the voice of others in other places of the universe to hear the voice of the Son of God speaking and communicating with them the realness. I'm asking you in your own personal way, Lord, to reveal yourself to Buzz, Sandra, Oliver, Apostle, Norman, every last one, Brother Cassidy, all of them, Sue, begin to come forward in consciousness. And I really don't need to pray this because if you already see God and he's ready to show you who he is in a personal way, I don't want you to get stuck on that personal business like all of a sudden you got it and nobody else don't have it. Yes. That's what gets the ego and everybody in trouble. But there's a love inside of you that's speaking to you, and all you have to do, God is waiting on your attention. His attention is 24/7. He's waiting on you to see him in one of the most difficult ways that you've ever been told.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that is
as yourself. And you haven't received Jesus Christ or the Christ consciousness until you've accepted yourself.
That's right.
And as I've said before, I realize that there are certain identities that are being peeled off, shedding in this being, at this person. And those identities I've pretty much been able to shed off, and there's no me shedding it off, but the identity with my body is gradually pretty much 99.99% gone because of the things I've had to accept about this body. So I've had to let it go for the sake of no suffering.
I can see two people walking on the road, and one of these people that I see is you, and somebody come along to both of you and say, "Where are you going?" "Well, I'm going to another city, but I can't ride the train, don't have the money to ride the bus." But well, what's the rate? I'm going out to California. Then the other person said, "Yeah, we walking together." And then you look and say, "Well, I think, can I join in with you?" All three of you will be going in the same direction, but each one of you appear to be different. Unravel the separation, and you'll see God walking, coming and going everywhere you go. Let the Lord walk when you walk. I tell you what, if you don't let him, it's going to be you walking anyway.
It is. And I want to share this, that I've shared it before, but I feel like I need to share it again. And this was early in my conversion experience, where I told you about how I was standing in the mirror, looking in the mirror, and my face transfigured. And this is the second time it happened to me. My face transfigured again. And it was it felt as if Jesus emerged and came to the forefront, and I sunk back in. I, as the person, sunk back in, and it was like he came forth. And when he did, he said this. He said, I'm going back in, and I'm going to work so that I can stay out. I know that sounds very simplistic, but in my pea brain, it made sense. He said, I'm going to go back in and work until I can stay out. And now I realize he has done that.
It's called working in you, both to will and to do.
He has done that, but I never knew when the actual change happened for him to stay out.
That's right.
It wasn't apparent, because in the process of that, there was a me that is disappearing while it is coming forth. And so that it's hard to explain, but it's a very, very real thing that's happening to all of you. All of you are having that same thing happen.
Buzz, I see where you said you feel closer to God, knowing the reality of oneness and the absence of separation. There will be days, Buzz, when you don't sense a reality of oneness. You don't sense the reality.
You don't sense an absence of separation.
But there is a knowing of the heart.
But it is still true. That's right. It is still true.
Find out every statement that was made by God to you personally and everybody else that you knew, and found out now that it will never change.
Yeah,
that's your identity.
Yeah.
Feelings now my shoulder hurting this morning, that doesn't change anything about my oneness with God. That don't change anything that I can't see him, because I can't walk and drive like you were a couple of weeks ago. That does not change my closeness.
And that disturbs the personal self.
That's the personal self. But who I am as the self, hidden self of the heart, is completely full and filled with God. This is the revelation of Jesus Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I hope that what I said made sense to you.
Yes.
And and believe me, I would love for you to interact with me. It would help me to put words to it. Or maybe you've had the same similar experiences, or maybe you're at that same place where it feels God has disappeared. And most of the time we grieve for the two-ness. And we try our best to find the two-ness again. We try to recapture it, recreate it, and because it felt so good. But that feeling is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. There has to be a permanence to who you are. If you're trying to hold on to a particular feeling or emotional state, it will never happen. It will never be sustainable for you. Buzz says this. He says, I have felt the separation many times, but I have experienced not being attached or identified with anything and feeling free. That's good.
That's a big victory.
That's good. Thank you, Jill.
Victory.
She said it's very helpful.
Thank you, all of you.
Because I think we get caught up in trying to capture or recapture these feelings of devotion and these feelings of feeling connected. And all of those are simply bonuses. As I talk to you about what happened, I sense it now. one of the things that happens to me if I just sit and say thank you or I love you, I feel those same feelings. So we long for the twosome, and separation, letting go of separation is not a pleasant thing because we are addicted to it. And we don't realize in what ways we're addicted to it. And when it starts to collapse, certain things that we're familiar with and having and doing and feeling and all of that begins to go with it. And that's not always pleasant.
That's right.
So it takes great courage on this journey of oneness.
Well, we want to appreciate you guys again for joining in with us and sharing your comments on the air. And I'm going to tell you, like I tell everybody else, be safe out there. And we will be talking to you soon, which will be Tuesday at 7.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your love gifts and all the good stuff that you're bringing with you.
Yeah. If you'd like to give, and we know that you guys, we thank you so much for your support of Cornerstone, and we thank you so much for your personal gifts to Pastor and I through Cash App. And if you want to do that through Cash App, it's $A Sawyer C, or you can use PayPal.me/ACE Sawyer 72. If you want to give to the church, which is great, that helps us as well.
Yeah.
That there are expenses that the church still has, even though it's virtual. You can go to the website, which is the Cornerstone Life Center, or you can text CLC Greensboro to 73256, or you can use the PayPal.me/Cornerstone35. And if you don't have the capability of doing that, or you just want to mail it, you can do P.O. Box 36259, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27416. And by the way, if you want to give the Pastor and I, you don't know how to use Cash App or PayPal, you can always mail that, and Laverne will make sure that we get it. So we thank you so much. We thank you so much. I hope this resonated with you today, and hope you have a great day. It's beautiful weather outside today, isn't it? I've got to go walk baby girl, and I'm sure you probably heard baby girl fussing and barking just a minute ago. We have this young man who's in the neighborhood. He's about 17? He's tall and long, lanky, and he's riding this little go-kart thing, and he comes through our circular drive to ride in, so baby girl gets to barking. So that's probably what you heard if you heard her. But anyway, we will be back on Tuesday at 7, and hopefully back again on Thursday at 12:30 with Pastor Norman. I know he's got some things going on. If he's available, he'll be with us. But we long to see you there, and we appreciate you so much. And those of you who are not commenting, you're with us. We thank you for tuning in to us. There's a couple of people from the hospital that they joined, looked at our live stream and joined the community the other day, and then subscribed to YouTube. Okay. And so I want you to take the time to do that right now. If you have a minute, I want you to go ahead and use this time to like and share and subscribe if you're on YouTube. We will really appreciate that. It helps us to really go up the ladder in the algorithm. Okay. Thank you, Lady Gwen. Thank you, Nathan. We love you guys too, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.